Hello. Welcome back to my little channel here on YouTube. Today I want to talk about the fact that there are so many YouTubers recently who have been leaving the channel, how I'm feeling about my channel right now, and why I got on social media in the first place. By the way, back in 2005, I also just watched Vanessa Lau's video about why she left her channel at the top of her career and the lessons that she learned from taking a year off, the wisdom that she gained, the way that she was able to understand herself more deeply, which is perfect for the stage of life that she's at. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lisa Lacroix, and among many other things, I am a speaking coach. I'm a 59-year-old content creator living nomadically after launching my kids into adulthood. I'm also a biohacker, a mother, a daughter, a sister. I'm a competitive partner dancer and a bringer together of people, community builder, and an advocate for changing the narrative on aging. Today I want to talk a little bit about why I got on social media in the first place and how I'm thinking about this particular journey, in hopes that something about my story will inspire you to do that thing that you're called to take on a new project, to be fully in service of your own self-expression for whatever reason you're called to, for whatever reason makes most sense to you, for whatever reason is your reason. I want to reclaim and share how I'm thinking about this social media thing right now, and how I want to keep remembering back to the beginning of why I started and the commitments that I'm making to myself here. I was looking back on my very first social media post, and I'm going to read it to you. Ranting Mama on Blogspot in September of 2005. And the very first post was why I started this blog. And the 8 reasons I said, and I want to share them now because they're really not so different. The first one was because my brain needs exercise, and I only have time for that in small bite-sized chunks. At the time, my kids were 1 and 7, and I had such a busy life, and I knew I wanted to bring back a piece of who I am and take advantage of social media to do that, but I really didn't have a lot of time. So I saw blogging as a possibility for putting things out there and having my brain have to think through things, think through what it is I wanted to say. The second point was because I need a place to rant where doing so won't result in my losing friends. And then I say, see number 7. Number 7 says, as a verbal processor, I usually need to talk or write my way through things as a way of making sense of the world. And then it says, see, point 2. As someone who is a verbal processor, and I've come to call verbal processing speaking in the feminine. That's when we speak out loud to discover what it is that we feel and think. And it's a very creative and beautiful process. But sometimes if we're verbal processors and we're used to discovering what it is that we think that we want to say by speaking aloud, it can be tedious for listeners, and sometimes it can leave us feeling like we've gone on and on and on and said absolutely nothing. And so we need a context and a structure for our verbal processing. And I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time, but really that's what I was saying. I was saying I need a place to be able to verbally process in ways that are not going to ostracize my friends. Number 3 was to remind myself that I can type and even compose sentences. Again, this is when my children were really little, and sometimes my brain wasn't all that functional, and I desired a place to say, I'm a person who has ideas, I'm a person who has thoughts. And so it was a perfect venue for that. Number 4 is to explore some of the ideas which are interesting to me. This one is an important one because it remains today. And when I start to talk about what I plan to do with this channel, I'll come back to that point. Number 5, it's something new. I have always been someone who believes in learning from what's current. Someone who wants to discover and explore and be informed and inspired by younger people. That has become part of my model of artful aging, is bidirectional learning. And in my model of artful aging, I explicitly say that in order to live a fresh and engaged and fulfilling life where we're not getting stuck in old patterns and ossified, that it's important to be learning from people who are younger than us, because like Khalil Gibran says in his poem, they are the way of the future. Now I've got to find that quote from Khalil Gibran. It's from his poem On Children. Among other beautiful things in this poem, the line that I'm speaking about is, "Seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward nor tarries with yesterday." He says, "You may have their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow." Children and young people are the future. And so if we stop learning from them, then we stop our own process, we stop our own progress, we stop our own evolution. And at the time, in 2005, blogging was something that young people were doing. And I would say the same thing is true with YouTube. YouTube has been a game that young people have started long ago. And there are increasingly numbers of people who are on the channel who are older, but it's still a very small portion proportionately. And so I'm always wanting to learn new. So anyway, going back to my original blog post, the fifth point was it's something new. And I want to always be learning something new. I want to always be challenging myself to do what's fresh. Number 6, exercise my don't wait till it's perfect muscle. Oh, this is so relevant for me now, almost 20 years later. I still need to constantly practice not waiting until it's perfect, to put it out there, incomplete. And I think this is one of the biggest changes that social media has created for us as humanity, especially in the last few years. When I was young, the people who were on media were all perfect. It was all curated. It was big budget movies. The newscasters were perfectly done. But social media has changed that so much and said, hey, we can show up exactly as we are. It is still a practice and a challenge to say I'm not going to be perfect. And so I am still now, 20 years later, using social media, using this YouTube channel to remind myself and to practice that I don't have to be perfect. And it is not easy. Number 7, I already told you about verbal processing. And then number 8 says I'm a bit of a literal exhibitionist. This comes down to I want to share who I am because I want to give you permission to share who you are. There is nothing more human than the need to connect, and it's through sharing who we are and what we think that we have the opportunity to connect with each other. When I show you me and you show me who you are in whatever form that is, whether it's your channel or your art or your work or a conversation that we're having, we get the possibility of connection. So all of that to say, here's what I'm not doing. I've been coming to terms with this reality about my channel for the last little while. And then, of course, seeing Vanessa's video just reminded me, yes, keep on going. Be true to yourself. I also saw another little YouTube channel's video by a woman named Dora called How My Small Channel is Changing My Life with Less Than 500 Subscribers. And I loved her video because she said, hey, here's who I am. And I'm so happy you're here. Here's the conventional wisdom I am not following. I am not niching down. I'm not niching down. It's the word on the street. Everyone says that you need to niche down in order to be impactful, to be successful, to grow. I don't care, I'm not niching down. I have an ADHD brain. I have so many interests. I am going to be talking about whatever I want, and I've said this before on the channel, but I'm saying it again because I have to keep on reminding myself of this. There's so much information out in the mainstream world for people who are neurotypical, I suppose, that says focus. You have to have one pointed focus. Niche down. My ADHD brain says no. My multi-potentialite personality says cannot. My desire for novelty and new things says it's not my path. And so I'm going with it, And I have to keep on reminding myself that that's the case. So I'm not going to be niching down. I'm not going to be consistent. I've tried because I felt like that's what you have to do. And would I love to be consistent? I would love to be consistent, but it's not my strength. And so I'm just going to show up with who I am and say, I'm not consistent. And I'm just going to have to own it and claim it. So my commitments, the commitments I am making to myself, are to follow my interests and to constantly stay aware of the danger and the pressure to do things for other people, to do things for what I think people want to hear, to answer to the need. There's all this information about you have to make videos that answer the needs of other people. You know, I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to follow my own interests, and I hope you come along on the ride with me. I hope my interests will give you the permission to follow your own interests in your life. Because what are we here for if not to follow our interests and do what we love and what we want? I'm committing that I take an attitude of growth mindset, that I prioritize learning and getting better at creating content that I love. I get better at filming. I get better at editing. I commit to constantly be learning new things and to improvement. I commit to highlighting the stories of other people, people who deserve a platform, people who I'm inspired by, people who I want to get to know better, people who I want to introduce you to, who I want to highlight, who I want to give an opportunity to share world-changing, often and much needed ideas and experience. So I'm going to be a platform for introducing you to other people through my show, The Lisa Lacroix Show, just like I did on my audio podcast, the Superpower You podcast. I feel that part of my path in this world is to shine a light on other people and to celebrate other people, to bring the ideas of other people to you. Sometimes when I interview my guests, I think of the interview with the guest as an introduction to another one of my guests, and of course to you. It's almost like I want to say, hey, Christine, you should know about Sarah. Watch my conversation with Sarah. Sarah, watch my conversation with Christine, because I want people to know about each other. I'm also committed to taking advantage of the freedom of having a small channel with not so many people watching. I'm going to keep on reminding myself that the beautiful thing about not so many people watching my channel is there is no pressure, that any pressure that comes is pressure that I put on myself. I'm free to do whatever I want, to trailblaze, to find my way. So I'm going to challenge myself to keep on remembering that that's such a gift. Then finally, I'm challenging myself to film more. I'm challenging myself to make spontaneous content out in the world, especially because now I'm nomadic, I'm traveling in different places. I'm seeing and doing all different kinds of things, and that's going to increase in the next few months when I go traveling in Asia. And so why not take advantage of sharing what I'm seeing and the things that I'm learning and the places I'm staying and what's happening in my life. So I'm going to make more spontaneous content out in the world. I'm going to do more vlogging, do more lives. I'm challenging myself to post more randomly, again, to get over my perfectionism. So those are the things that I'm committing to follow my interests, to take an attitude of growth and learning, to highlight the stories of other people, to take advantage of my freedom, and to challenge myself to keep on learning and growing and filming more. That's it. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for being with me. Subscribe to my channel if it calls to you, and follow along for all of this and more. Mwah! See you next time.